This morning I want to continue our series on walking with Jesus, growing in faith, by asking a simple question. How does God measure success? What is His yardstick? I can tell you right now it's going to be very different from the way the rest of the world measures it. When most people think of success, they look at three things. They want to know how much money a person has, they want to know how much power a person has, or they want to know how famous that person is. A good indicator of fame and celebrity today, whether or not you have a Wikipedia page. You know, if you put in anybody's name and you come up on that list in the Google results, anybody who's anybody has a Wikipedia page. Well, I have to confess that one day when I had nothing to do, I decided to put my name in there. You know, I write the weekly blog in the newspaper. I've written a couple of books, Christian books that don't get a lot of sales, but I've written a couple of those, and I thought, you know, I'm pretty well known. I've served in the community. Let's see if Cal Ward has a Wikipedia page. And I put it in there, and I'm sorry to say I didn't. So then I thought, well, maybe they had it wrong. Maybe they had to put my formal name, Clayton A. Lord Jr. in there. And, you know, it is kind of a really serious thing, Wikipedia, right? No kids at all. I was then thinking that maybe no one had thought to put my name in Wikipedia. And there's a place where if you think there's somebody who's newsworthy or noteworthy, you can put your name in, and if they accept it, they add it. So I put in all my information, and they rejected it. Well, the truth is, most of us will never have a Wikipedia page. Most of us will never make it into People magazine or be invited to be a guest on Oprah. But that doesn't mean that we won't live satisfying lives that are looked upon as being successful by the people we know and love. Unfortunately, we try to use the world's measuring stick to gauge our happiness and success. We look at the externals, and if we haven't achieved or received them, we feel cheated. Some of us live life feeling like failures or disappointments because we never quite measured up to the promise that we saw in our youth. We feel our life is less than it should be because we don't have enough money, we don't live in a big enough home, we don't drive a nice enough car. Actually, if you saw my car right now, I'm driving around in a 1993 Oldsmobile Sierra. I didn't even know if they make them anymore. It's kind of cool because our daughter Rachel just turned 16 and got her driver's license, and the car is older than she is. But when people see me in that car, they probably wonder what's going on. Well, anyway, that's another story for another day. The problem is, though, when we begin to measure our success by the standards of the world, by what others put on us, we begin to do things that actually take away from the quality, the joy of life. We begin to work longer hours and sometimes compromise our values to make more money, to achieve higher status. And sometimes we find that even though we think these things will make us happier, they actually take away from the joy and the zest for life. The truth is that even if you achieve a certain status, even if you reach a level of income, you may still find yourself feeling empty and unfulfilled. That's the cruel reality of the world that we live in. You look at people who are in the news every day, people who seem to have it all, and yet their world is falling apart. People like Lindsay Lohan. I don't understand. The other night, Lori and I watched the movie Extraordinary Measures with Harrison Ford and Brandon Fraser. I don't know if you've seen it. It's a story about a man who gives up his job to try to find a cure for his children's fatal disease. In the movie, a very heartwarming story, it becomes a race against the clock to get a drug patented that might cure them. It's a good movie. At one point, though, even while pursuing a noble cause, the star, the father, asks himself a question. Because over the last period of time, he spent very little time with his children. He's been so busy pursuing this noble and lofty goal so often before we know it, so much time has gone by, we look back and we say, where has our life gone? So often when we look for success by the world's standards, the question comes up, what did we give up to achieve it? And the second question is, was it worth it? Well, I have news for you today. If you reject the world's view of success and adopt Jesus' plan, you'll not only be happier, you'll also be blessed in ways that you will never believe. And so I think it's important for us in the church, those of us who are followers of Jesus, to recognize that success is not what the world says it is. There's a better way, and that's the way that Christ puts out for us in the Sermon on the Mount, as he begins that with the Beatitudes. How does God measure success? The clue is found in that third beatitude. Jesus says, how happy, how blessed, how joyful are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Now, before you begin to understand what Jesus is saying, you need to readjust your thinking about what's meant by meekness. We're not talking about being a doormat. We're not talking about rolling over and letting others have their way. Jesus could be very forceful in getting his point across. He spoke with authority, but he didn't insist on his own way. He didn't insult people and put them down. So often people in authority today never even think about other people's feelings. They just say what's on their mind, and they just tell people as it is. I think that's one of the problems with the political process today. People don't listen. People don't respect others. And so you have one side fighting and arguing and hollering at the others, trying to push their point, their philosophy, their agenda. And it doesn't matter what side you're on. Both sides are true. And we see what happens. Nothing good. The truth is that the Apostle Paul, in encouraging us to be more Christ-like, says that we need to humble ourselves. And he reminds us in this letter to the Philippians that although Jesus, the one we revere, the one we follow, the one we worship, was God, that he humbled himself in order that God's glory would be revealed. I love that passage because it says that Jesus, even though he was God, humbled himself. He became a man. He became as one of us, and he gave his life. He followed God's rules, even unto death. But in the end, even though the world said he lost, even though the world said he had failed, God lifted him up and gave him a name above all other names, that every knee should bow, every tongue confess that Jesus is Lord. That's the kind of success that Jesus wants for all of us. The kind of success that lasts far beyond any moment in time. So how do we follow his example and achieve this kind of success that brings God glory and offers us fulfillment and leads to God's approval? Well, I'm going to give you three things this morning that might help. These are the things that you can use to find God's yardstick, how he'll measure your life. The first thing is to strive for humility in our lives. Strive for humility. How do we do this? It begins by recognizing that we are special and that God has created each of us with certain gifts and talents that allow us to be successful in life. We're all different, and that's okay. Humility begins with accepting the person that God created us to be. Now, why is that important? Because so often in the world, we're comparing ourselves to someone